Hello, and welcome to the Clap Podcast. My name is Will Frost, and I'm here with Toby Yeomans, the voice of the ouch you just heard, and we're here to discuss all things film and television. We are excited to give you our thoughts on the latest in film and TV news, as well as a discussion on some of the latest releases and classics. Toby, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm keen to be in here, keen to have a chat about the up and coming film and TV shows, I guess.
Yeah. Let's tell our listeners about why we're doing this podcast. I think it's safe to say that we annoy our friends and family by talking about movies way too much.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just, we really wanted to create a podcast where people who actually were interested in this stuff and were absolute film nerds like us, and we could give people our thoughts on some of the news and tell people our thoughts and have a really good discussion on some of the latest films coming out as well.
And just widen the amount of people that we can annoy with our conversations, I guess.
Absolutely. And it's safe to say we have some pretty strong views on a lot of things coming out.
Absolutely, yeah.
So why don't we get straight into it? Let's talk about some of the latest news coming out. Well, one of the big ones is that Star Wars The Phantom Menace is having its 25th anniversary this year, and it's having a re-release in theaters along the May 4th weekend.
Yeah, no, it sounds interesting. You know my position on Star Wars itself. I actually stand by the prequels as actually enjoyable films to the extent that they can be. Yeah, obviously the dialogue always a little choppy, cringy to the extent that it can be, but I don't know if I'll be rushing in to watch it per se in cinemas, but it's definitely something that I'll consider if the right group comes along to go watch it.
I actually agree. I think if they make it sort of a massive event type thing where it's not just re-releases in theaters where you have 5 Star Wars fans in there enjoying it again who've seen it for the 100th time, I think if they make it sort of a major event and you've got a full theater full of like huge Star Wars fans, and you get exactly what I said, exactly what you said, the right group to come along and do it, I think it could be a really fun experience.
Yeah, I'm not going to be around the bush, so I doubt they're going to do anything significant with it. I mean, 25 years, like it's a pretty significant amount of time that the film's been out and a pretty significant anniversary, but I doubt that cinemas will be doing anything extra to release the film in such a way that it encourages people to come see it.
You don't think Disney will sort of look to try and recover some of their Star Wars reputation in a way, given sort of the disappointment in some of the newer releases?
I can't say like I don't know for certainty that the cinemas will be wanting to do it. I reckon you'll see maybe an increased amount of publicity on Disney Plus, like, you know, have the side scroller at the top there. They might also like Phantom Menace 25-year anniversary and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like they'll try and get the recommended bit more towards the Star Wars prequels, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure that they'll do anything to push people towards going to cinemas, especially when they're pushing Disney Plus so hard currently. I think they're nearly doing the opposite with a lot of the way that they're releasing movies and TV shows. They're trying to really push people to go towards their streaming service rather than going to cinemas, perhaps.
And you know, I had a lot of thoughts about that one.
Yeah, of course.
Well, as we're on the topic of Disney, why don't we talk about all their major 2024 announcements? Disney have really invested in some of their upcoming releases, and I, in my opinion, I think they're looking very heavily in the short term. It's a lot of sequels, prequels, spin-offs.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sort of giving us more of what we know and love. And whilst I really enjoy that we're getting more of some of the IPs that we love, I do feel like there is a gap in their plans of new and original ideas.
Yeah, well, why don't you just list out what you've got written down there, just so that we could discuss them, I guess, when we're talking about this.
Absolutely. So let's start off with the announcement of Moana 2 coming to theaters in November. I've heard this was originally going to be a Disney Plus production, but given its popularity and the success of Moana, they are releasing it in theaters. What are your thoughts about Moana 2?
I stand by the original Moana. I loved that film when it came out.
A really popular film.
Yeah, really popular film. I think it's good. It's kind of like that Frozen thing where I'm not pushed towards sequel. Like, I haven't seen Frozen 2. I've watched Frozen, the first one, enough times to have a considerable opinion about it. But yeah, I'm not sure if like releasing a sequel for it is going to do all that much. I think Disney has the capacity to release some original stories, and I feel like they're not investing in it as much as they perhaps should be. They're trusting a lot in the IPs. It's good to hear those coming to cinemas rather than straight to Disney Plus, but but beyond that, I don't see it being like massively an impressive film or anything like that.
A lot of families will be looking forward to this. Yes, especially around November time where, families are going to be really keen for something new. Yeah. Whilst it's not necessarily a new idea, it's definitely going to be a hit with family and friends. And if they can pull it off, we assume that the cast is coming back. I don't think it's been confirmed just yet.
I imagine they would. They did very well with the first one. Why not?
Absolutely. The truth is, I trust that they push for a sequel that can live up to the original, and I think it can be really exciting for families and big fans of the original to have some more time in that world that they really show off in the first one.
Yeah, no, certainly. It's a valid point to say that, like, I guess, I mean, when we were younger, we had, like, Toy Story 1, 2, 3, so maybe it's not fair to criticize and say that sequel isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean...
And Pixar can pull it off. We've
seen it. Off, yeah.
You know, whilst not necessarily every trilogy that, or even sequels that Disney Pixar have created have lived up to the original, but you can't deny that, you know, Finding Dory and Cars and some of those really... They're really enjoyable flicks.
Yeah, and I guess if you're looking at it as like a kids and family type of film, they really don't care if it's the same IP. They're not looking for original stories. If they love the original, they can dress up as the same character and all that type of stuff, and all the power to them. So I guess in that sense, like, it's not too disappointing that they're doing it. It's not too disappointing. They're investing purely in sequels.
Yeah.
It is always nice to see new films coming out. I mean, they had Elementals last year.
They did.
Yeah. Can't say that I saw it.
I did, and I really enjoyed it. I think it disappoints me that not a lot of people went and saw it at the theaters, but I do think that it's found a new life on Disney Plus and video on demand, and I'm really glad that it did, because I think it's Disney going in a new direction in terms of storytelling through animation, and I really think that that was a great call from them.
Yeah, and I don't think it's fair to say that the Disney hasn't released new stuff. Even if you go before Elementals, there was Encanto, and that was an original film that did fantastic. I can't remember it being a huge cinematic release.
Yeah.
But once again, like a standalone film that was well received, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, I feel like when we're talking about Disney animation, it's not the end of the world that they're continuing IPs and doing sequels.
Totally. Well, let's move on to, I think, some of the news that's going to really excite people, and that's the Taylor Swift The Eras Tour coming to Disney Plus, featuring songs that were not included in the original film. I believe they're calling it Taylor's version, but that could be incorrect. I think a lot of fans will be really happy that Taylor Swift is getting her incredibly successful concert film coming to Disney Plus and available for all. I'm assuming it'll be in really good quality, 4K and all that, and I feel like that's going to be played in many households who have Disney Plus.
Yeah. No, it's very relevant. We got Taylor Swift in Melbourne tonight.
We do.
So that'll be the craze we'll be hearing about for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
It's certainly interesting that she's releasing so much. I mean, Taylor Swift is everywhere, all over the news. Like,
absolutely.
I've had family talk about it, like co-workers and everything. Like, you can't go anywhere and not talk about Taylor Swift right now. So
yeah,
she's doing well for herself to stay in the media. And I mean, obviously coming out of the Super Bowl as well. She was, obviously highly...
Sure. She was.
To better or worse for some viewers. But she's doing well to keep herself relevant for such a amount of time that it seems nearly ridiculous how every single conversation somehow brings up Taylor Swift. But for the actual tour to be shown on Disney Plus, I think it's interesting because obviously it was on cinemas the entirety of last year. Yeah, I was unaware, and it did ridiculously well in cinemas. But it's been streaming for a little while now. So the fact that they're bringing out more songs, I'll be interested to see if it's so much more worthwhile that people might get pushed back towards Disney again.
I do think that's the case. I really do, especially given, I think it's while we're on the topic, her release structure has been incredible for her and her business team, because how much money it made at the box office. I mean, it was nominated for a Golden Globe, the concert film, because of how successful it was in theaters. I mean, it was comparable to some major releases.
Yeah.
And then to have that, and then video on demand featuring, I think, some 1 or 2 additional songs, so people want to rent it or buy it again to watch it, and then to have it also on Disney Plus generate even more money from what I'm sure was an incredibly expensive deal for Disney.
Yeah.
I think Taylor Swift herself and her business team really was incredibly successful in their rollout of that concert film, and I think we would be absolutely remiss if we didn't mention that other artists are going to absolutely try and pull this off the same as Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
because it's been not only as the Eras Tour, as we can see from her shows in Melbourne tonight and the rest of the weekend. People are really, really excited to see the Eras Tour in Melbourne, and I think people are just going to want to constantly revisit it on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
I think it'll find a completely sort of new audience as well as people who went to the show and really want to experience that again.
Yeah, I know you bring up some interesting points as well that other artists might be doing the same thing. We saw Beyonce.
We did
Renaissance tour. Yeah. So that was in cinemas. I don't think it was as well received. Oh, probably it was well received, just wasn't as widely watched.
No, absolutely. I think Taylor Swift had a massive wide release. That really was.
Yeah, because then you go into the questions like, what one of the artists is big enough to pull off something like that? Realistically, I mean, if maybe Rihanna released a new album, perhaps, but obviously she's doing that.
I mean, Coldplay did it. They did Live in River Plate.
Yeah.
That wasn't as successful because that was a live show.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, where Taylor Swift is a pre-recorded concert show, whereas Coldplay, they did a live performance shown in theaters. That was a one-off.
Yeah.
But it has found new life. For our Australian listeners, it's on Stan. I've seen it. I went to the Coldplay concert, so did you.
Yeah.
We went, and we really enjoyed it. And I won't lie, I've revisited that show countless times on Stan. That's the streaming service is on for our Australian listeners. And I can only see Taylor Swift having the same success on streaming.
Yeah.
I think there are other artists that can pull it off. Maybe it's one of those things where I think bands like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and Coldplay are known for putting on incredible shows. Their music is obviously sensational and wildly successful.
Yeah.
But I think it's not only that, it's their shows they're known for, the creativity and the glamour of their shows that people really want to experience live. Is absolutely what is going to put them above necessarily other artists who can do it.
Yeah. I do also want to ask you, I know you have some opinions about the Disney Plus exclusive or even just adding more content to stuff simply just for Disney Plus. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I will talk about that because I do, I feel really passionately about this, but I think the streaming exclusivity is more harmful than I think we talk about in day to day. I think most people are really happy to go on to streaming and watch film, and I absolutely get that. And I have nearly every streaming service. I'm absolutely culprit of that. I also have quite a large physical media collection as well, which, yes, I'm that nerdy. But I think for me, it's also, it comes down to film preservation as well as the availability of films where, you can have it on the shelf, it's always going to be there. But as you know, one of my, a film that I really, really enjoyed actually got removed from Disney Plus because it didn't get enough views, and it was called Clouds. For viewers who haven't seen Clouds, it's a really beautiful film, and it's actually just been put on iTunes to buy. That's the only place you can get it, as far as I've seen. But they removed that off Disney Plus for a long time, and it was genuinely not available anywhere. So that film essentially didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's so much more dangerous to the preservation of arts than I think people talk about, because essentially those filmmakers, their film didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go revisit that film. No one could go revisit that film or find it anymore. And I think what worries me is that I think the exclusivity, if Disney had said, well, we'll give it to someone else, even for a Blu-ray release, or even for, give it to SBS or one of the free streaming services here anywhere, that film can still find a home somewhere, even if Disney don't want to put it on their platform, which I understand. They're in control of their platform. They don't want to put content on there that they don't want to continue supporting. But allow people who really are passionate for the project to find it a home somewhere else. And I think that's my main concern with streaming exclusivity, and the fact that so many major films get hidden within the algorithm. Things that my mum watches, I don't even see appear on my Netflix, and things like that. And that really worries me, where you've got these films coming out by major production companies and studios and directors and filmmakers, and they're just getting put into the ether that they essentially don't exist if they're just on streaming, because the power for that to be taken away or modified or adjusted in any way is absolutely a worry to upholding the filmmaker's visions of the film. And I think that my dream in this scenario would be for everything to be available on streaming that the streaming services want, but also give it either a physical release or enable it to be purchased or acquired through other means.
Yeah.
And especially I feel like we need to pursue the physical avenue more, and upholding the integrity of media and the physicality of that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's so important for film preservation in the future, and for people to watch films in the best possible quality. Because here in Australia, we know our internet cannot be compared to other countries. And I think that I put in my 4K discs and I see a wildly different experience than when I put in when I put on a 4K stream. It's just a different experience.
Yeah.
Let's run through some of these. So Disney invested 1.5 billion in an equity stake in Epic Games. That will see things like Fortnite and those sort of games having a much larger Disney presence.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the inclusion of characters and even storylines and things like that related to Disney.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what they're going to be doing with it. Obviously Epic Games is not primarily for Fortnite.
Yes.
And that game's still kicking it, all the power to them. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what, the stakes will entail. I think, it's also confusing as well because, obviously Fortnite has such a large character list. Like they've got, it's not just Disney Studios, they've got characters from, like DC, that's not Disney, that's,
no,
whatever other company. Yeah, Warner Bros. Yeah. They've got like other game franchise and stuff like that. So I think it will be interesting to see what Disney wants to do with it. What I've heard is to try to create a digital world to whatever extent that can be possible, or what they mean by that. I don't know.
Yeah. There was a game, but wasn't it an Xbox game where you used to be able to buy the characters and put it on the platform?
Yes.
And Skyland, we were talking about Skylanders off air, yeah.
But yeah, no, there was like a Disney version of that. I'm not sure how well it did. I mean, it's a good way to make money. When you sell a character for $20 a piece, and then that's how you have to progress in the game. I mean, don't worry about microtransactions. You've got some physical transactions there.
Yeah.
But no, it'll be certainly interesting to see where it goes. I mean, as I said, Epic Games is killing it right now. Just with Fortnite alone. So to see if they make a new game, perhaps, or if they just expand the Fortnite IP outwards to include more, and make the game bigger. I mean, it could be impressive. See what they can do with that. Disney like exclusive things in Fortnite. So I don't know if you remember from like when there was the Infinity War movies coming out. They did an Infinity War.
Thanos was in the game.
Yeah. They did things like that. I mean, I haven't played it in a hot minute. But yeah, they did have some events. I think is what they call them, events for Disney exclusive stuff. So I don't know if that'll be the type of line they go into, but I mean, they were already doing that. So I imagine the money they're putting in is for something a little bit more grand.
Yeah, well, they've already confirmed that we have multiple games coming out by other studios related to Marvel. I believe there's a Captain America and Black Panther game, Iron Man, and obviously the Wolverine. For PS players. Yeah. And I think Bob Iger's really interested in the gaming side of things and the success of that. I mean, we've just seen the Avatar game come out this year, last year now. That game came out this year, last year, and I do see that this incredibly massive, I mean, $1.5 billion US in Epic Games is a massive investment, and I see that Disney's involvement in gaming is only going to increase.
Yeah.
And I see that not only that, but I heard DC is also interested in the same sort of things, pursuing gaming in relation to
they've had the Suicide Squad game drop.
They did.
Not well received, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah, I have not had a chance to get my hands on that game yet.
I haven't played it either. I know people weren't too keen on the gameplay itself.
Sure.
Apparently the storyline, I've heard mixed reviews about the storyline. Some people say like some of the cutscenes they're funny and good to engage with. Some people are saying it's all crap. But I think they're doing like a season of it, like where they introduce new story.
Interesting.
Add to the longevity of it.
Yeah.
But just given how it's been immediately received, I don't think it's going to last too long unless they really want to invest some time and money into it.
Totally.
But yeah, that's the games, I suppose. But then we could talk about the movies coming out. So we got some sequels. I do as well talk about on the same lane as Moana. We started this.
Let's do that. So let's talk about the fact that Zootopia 2 is coming in November 2025.
Yeah,
I think that's really exciting. I think Toy Story 5 in 2026. That's the one I'm not entirely sure on. I don't know if Toy Story, as someone who's seen all of them, we grew up with them. I feel like that was the time when we were kids, and I absolutely think the Toy Story films were a success, incredibly amazing in what they achieved when they came out. But I think 5 Toy Story movies, they're definitely going to appeal to the children now. We're probably beyond the age.
It's one of those. I haven't seen the full Toy Story.
Okay, I have.
Yeah, I've seen the first 3. Obviously, they were in my youth a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is it just one of those things though that I feel like kids might struggle to watch some of the more original Toy Stories because, no offense, the quality considering our current time, it's not quite the same as it used to be.
Absolutely.
Even if I watch the original Toy Story now, I'm being hung on by nostalgia a fair bit to overlook some of the animation quality.
I mean, I do love how Andy's friends are just different.
Yeah, just
modern Andy. And the thing was, that's totally coming down to they didn't have the technology at the time, and it's what they managed to pull off that you don't notice it until you notice it. But it's still an incredible film. It doesn't disrupt it in any way. But you're absolutely right.
So I do wonder if I can't say that they're making this for our generation as much because I didn't even see the fourth one. I know I don't speak for everyone, but yeah, I'm not rushing to see another Toy Story film. The storyline kind of concluded for me at the third one. I didn't feel like there was much more to say.
Yeah.
In that regard, and that's one of the times I think it might be better to invest into a new IP, make a new story, make some new characters. I mean, if you can find something as successful as Toy Story, I mean, we got another one listed here, Frozen 3, sequel to Frozen 3. Obviously, those films have been fantastically received, and the kids at now times they love those films. They think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But 15 years down the line, do we want to see it Frozen 16? Like, I feel like you'll get to a certain point with any IP where you don't need to tell any more stories with it. People have spent their time with it. Kids have grown up with it, but you're just making films for the new kids of the generation, and I feel like they deserve new stories.
I agree, and that's why I really feel like this announcement from Disney, whilst it is incredibly exciting what they're doing in terms of investing in their streaming service and pursuing a wide variety of films across all their IPs, and we'll get onto some of the other franchises that they have and the films they're developing there. I do feel like it comes down to the fact that their more recent new IPs have not been as successful as their sequels and things like that, where you look at Elementals and the fact that really did have a great box office run in the end. It was one of those, it had a very low opening and then it really picked up steam as word of mouth got around about it. But it's just, there's nothing that will compare to the box office numbers that these films are going to open with.
Yeah.
And I think that this announcement by Disney is very much a short-term plan to recover some of the losses that they've had in recent years, such as the Indiana Jones film not being wildly successful in terms of box office. The only really successful Disney film from last year, I believe, was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
They had the Marvels come out end of the year.
Yeah.
A lick. I didn't hear a lick about that movie except that it was received.
No, and it unfortunately didn't make a lot of money. And I do say that because I really want to see the MCU turn around, and I want to see the creativity and the incredible filmmaking in these films become well received and find an audience with not only people who are massive fans of Iron Man and the original sort of MCU, but also new fans who are really sort of becoming into the superhero genre now. Because whilst the superhero genre is really going downhill and is sort of becoming taken over by other sort of stories, there is new people coming into the superhero market, and I feel like Marvel and Disney have the ability to go in a new direction, and I see them doing that. But unfortunately, films like the Marvels at the end of last year didn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off talking about superheroes. I think we'll come back to it when we have a discussion about the new Boys trailer. So we'll come back to that later.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you wanted to talk about the Alien film or Percy Jackson. That's what you got.
I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't want to talk too much about Percy Jackson, to be honest, but I just wanted to inform our listeners that the Percy Jackson season 2 has been confirmed and is going to be continued by Disney. I think I had a lot more thoughts on the fact that Alien Romulus has been confirmed. That's the name of the film. Initially, it was just known that an Alien sequel was going to come out, but but now it's confirmed it's going to be called Alien Romulus. And what really excites me is that Ridley Scott has apparently approved of it and approved of the idea. And I think it's got a really interesting cast and crew behind it, and I'm really excited to see what they do with that. I know the director has been known for making, I think, some more independent horror films, I believe. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but I'm very excited for that film because as a fan of the Alien franchise, I know it's goes against everything we just said where they just keep producing sequels and things, but I think Alien's one of those where they are sort of, if each film can be different in terms of setting or ideas, because some of the Alien films have a lot of incredible ideas. So his name is, apologies if I'm saying it wrong, Fade Alvarez, and he has other films like the 2013 Evil Dead, brutal film.
Yeah.
Don't Breathe, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The remake, yeah, 2022. So that could be really interesting. I mean, Evil Dead 2013 is considered a really good remake.
Yeah.
And Don't Breathe, I heard, was quite successful as well.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was a fine horror film. I wasn't too keen on the Texas Chainsaw, just because I think the original's a really good indie horror film, and I think sometimes you got to let originals stay as they are, as much as they might be totally not age as well as they could. But yeah, I really stand by the original. But that's not to take away what he might do for the Alien.
Yeah,
I think there's obviously an opportunity there. And I'll be keen to go see it when it comes to cinemas. But yeah, I think for the time being, the fact that Ridley Scott says he's enthused for it, that's always good news as well.
Totally. And the last thing we'll say about the Disney announcements is that Mandalorian and Grogu is coming to theaters in 2026.
Oh, it's a movie.
It is a movie, and it's coming to theaters as well, which really excites me. So Mandalorian is finally getting off just the Disney Plus platform, and we're going to be able to see him and Grogu on the big screen. So I'm really, really excited for that.
Yeah.
I think the Mandalorian has been one of the better pieces of Star Wars that has come out since the Disney acquisition, and I feel like Mandalorian and Grogu could be a really fun experience in the theaters.
Yeah. I only watched the first season.
Okay. Right. You're definitely going to have to change that, Toby.
Yeah, I struggle with some of the newer Star Wars content, just because I feel like the world that they built, I mean, the galaxy by technicality that they've built is very interesting. It's an interesting one, and I won't take away from that by saying much, but sometimes I feel like some of the stories that they tell seem unnecessary, like the Boba Fett show. I mean, I only watched the last episode. Right. And it was interesting to say the least. I thought it was just kind of like, from all I know, he was dead. Like, that character was dead.
Yeah.
I understand why they bring someone back.
Just no, like, I understand that.
Sure. And I mean, like, people might enjoy it, and people love the universe. So, like, I don't think it's necessarily terrible to say that we can't keep producing content for it. But just, I feel like they're rushing a lot of stuff. Like, you saw the sequels, just like the mainline sequel films, they weren't hugely well received. And I know the Boba Fett show wasn't all that well received. I know you stand by and love, is it Andor?
Yes, Andor's fantastic. I recommend that to everyone.
Yeah, so when they're producing like good quality stuff like that, I'm all for it. But I think sometimes they're rushing some content, and it's taking away from the universe itself, taking away from sort of the magic behind Star Wars that I think a lot of people love. And I say that not being a huge Star Wars fan, so some people might completely disagree with me and be like, oh, it's brilliant. I love the fact that there's a billion things I can watch Star Wars related. Yeah. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion on it. And look, maybe I will grind through the rest of the Mandalorian to watch the film. But if people are loving the show and wanting to go see the film, absolutely go do it.
Yes, totally. I couldn't agree more. Let's get into some of the other news, and this is mainly for the Australian listeners, but anyone overseas might be interested in this as well. That we had the 13th Actor Awards recently. And we'll just talk about some of the major winners, but basically, it was a sweep by Talk to Me.
Yeah,
a fantastic film, really enjoyable. It won categories including Best Film, Best Original Score, Best Editing, Best Lead Actress, which I'm really glad about. I thought the performances were fantastic. Yep. Best Direction, and of course, Best Screenplay. And I think it's safe to say that you and I were massive fans of this film.
Yeah, I actually only watched it. I guess this week. I watched it Monday.
Oh, really? You were?
I think I watched it in perfect conditions as well. I was like 12 when we started it.
Yeah.
So like pitch black night,
late night horror film.
Yeah, it was a good watching experience. I was watching it with some mates as well, which also always helps watching a horror film because you can be scared, but
yes,
just crack some jokes in the middle of it. It was generally like a good, like creepy environment.
It was.
The film was well made. Some of the dialogue, once again, sometimes I get taken out when it's an Australian accent, like immediately in a film. Sure. I got over it in like 2 minutes for this film. I think it's really good. And I also just think one of my criticisms, I suppose, is that it felt like some of the scenes were just a little bit jumpy, as in like they rushed it. But I guess like when you don't have a huge investment into this film, as compared to like some of the blockbuster horror films you're seeing from America, you kind of got to rush some of the dialogue and stuff like that because you want to keep to the action. But I thought the scares were brilliant. The plot was like creepy, and actually that kind of stuck with me that night. Even I was kind of like, "Whoa, that's a bit weird." Yeah, so it's just I thought it was a really good film. And coming out of Australia, I'm really proud to say that it came from Australia. Yeah, the film is gonna, if it continues like that, we're gonna see some good films coming from.
Absolutely, and I think it's incredible how it's found a market overseas, and that Australian film. Not that this hasn't happened before. There's been some amazing Australian films, but especially this one has found a general audience in the US. Yeah, not just world cinema lovers and people like that, but general audiences going to the theaters to see a horror film, and many people, I'm sure, not even knowing that it was an Australian film, and go in and are really blown away by how impressive the filmmaking is. And I think that comes down to the directors, the actors, the entire cast and crew behind that film should be immensely proud with their entire production, and they deserved all the awards that they
it was really
the actor award.
brilliant film.
Speaking of award shows, I think we should talk about the new announcements by the Oscars. So we are definitely in the middle of award season. I know I follow this a lot more than you do, but I like to follow the awards quite closely.
Yeah.
And the Oscars, in the build up to this year's Oscars, but for next year and beyond, they are adding a best casting category.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of things to say about this. Don't think it's what we needed.
Yeah. I wonder if it's one of those things where it's just that some films that are getting snubbed from other categories having really good casting. I think one example we could use is Barbie. The Barbie casting was fantastic.
It was.
Tremendous. And in that regard, perhaps it would have stood a better chance as compared to films that are like a little bit more dramatic and your usual Oscar picks.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like you get the acclaims that you deserve for a film when compared to like this really well-made masterpieces.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I agree with you when you're saying like some of the categories that they're missing that I think would be better.
Yeah, I think for me, sorry to cut. No, but I think best stunts is absolutely a necessity at this point. I mean, some of the stunt work that is being put into franchises and films like John Wick, The Equalizer, a lot of these incredible stunt action. Well, yeah, it's the stunt work in Mission Impossible. I mean, these stunts by themselves can sell a film. I mean, the entire Mission Impossible, it was just the marketing was the drive off the clip. And I just think the fact that we're not recognizing the work that stunt performers put into that, those action set pieces is a massive flaw and this is not just directed at the Oscars, it's directed to all the awards ceremonies where I think stunt work is absolutely an art form that needs to be appreciated by the Academy.
Yeah.
And I think that goes with voice acting as well. I think we're remiss to look over voice acting because some of the performances that actors have given in the voice acting category has been amazing.
Yeah.
And I see animation with the success of The Boy and the Heron and Spider-Verse and the Disney Pixar films. These are incredible performances, and the fact that we're not recognizing them, I think, is another flaw in the awards sector.
I can agree with that. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes and it's received coming in through next year. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, we're not seeing as many of the films just yet for the Oscars next year. But I think it will definitely make maybe like, is that a good cast for us?
Yes, I totally agree. Well, because I was thinking about it and I went, what if they added it this year? Who would be nominated? Who would win? And I just realized the answer is Oppenheimer all the way through. I mean, you have some of the best actors and actresses working in Hollywood today in that film, all delivering incredible performances. I mean, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Cillian Murphy, Florence Pugh. I mean, you've got an incredible cast.
You don't think Barbie would?
I absolutely think it would be nominated because I mean, Margot Robbie herself, Ryan Gosling, and all the Kens and Barbies in that film were insanely good.
Yeah.
And all delivered a lot to the role. And it's great to see some of the actors finding other roles beyond that. And I love how the cast of Sex Education had a major involvement in that film as well. But I do think it would go to Oppenheimer this year. But I am very curious going into the new year how the Oscars are going to define the nominations for Best Casting. Because I think, I mean, just from the look of it, June 2 would absolutely be a consideration at this point.
Yeah.
It couldn't not. I mean, on paper, that is a cast most directors would dream of, and I'm sure Denis is so appreciative of the talent he gets to work.
Yeah, a lot of young talent coming through as well. Boy, Hoda are brilliant. Like Florence is going crazy right now. She's so much. Zendaya. What's it? June and
she's Challenges,
like 2 films that she's borderline starring in.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, she's doing fantastic for herself.
Cillian Murphy has announced he's going to be in a new film for Netflix as well, so he's going got some projects in the works.
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet as well. Oh, he did Wonka.
I mean, he's had an impressive run recently. I mean,
absolutely. He's a busy guy.
He is a busy guy.
Yeah, he was in like 3-4 films last year.
Yeah, I mean, incredible performances and all as well.
Yeah,
I think that's an all-star cast, and I can't wait to see what the nominations are for next year. And you're right, it would definitely be on my mind a bit more now that that has been announced.
Yeah, no, that's it's certainly an interesting thing to talk about though. And yeah, I will see how it goes. Where maybe people will hate it and be like, "This is such a stupid award," and they'll vomit it out.
Yes, totally. I think, shall we move on to some of the other major news of the week?
Yeah.
We probably don't have to go into these ones in as much depth, but Johnny English 4 has begun filming, and it will be filmed in the UK and Malta later this year. So for Johnny English fans, that's exciting news. I, as a person who is a fan of those films, I'm excited for that.
Yep.
Dan Trachtenberg will direct a new Predator movie called Badlands, and this is off the success of his 2022 film Prey, which you and I are massive fans.
Yeah, Prey
was a fantastic film.
Really good film. Really good way to like keep the Predator franchise relevant. I think this is what I was talking about before. It's really difficult to have a story like Predator set in a more modern world. Just because my logic is always that like Predator comes down, lands, and then it's like you have to find so many different forms of exposition to explain why they're not just getting attacked by the army.
Yeah.
Realistically, like you'd land in America, because it'll be America, of course. And then it's like, oh, they've got camouflage so they can't be detected by satellite. They got electromagnets that stop phones from working. It's not like you got to push in all this exposition. Sure, as Prey, it was just like an isolated area. Really good story. And I think I also said it was really good representation that felt really organic.
Yeah,
because it was set in a place that would make sense for the cast to be who they were. And then it was also, they had it in the traditional language.
They did. They had a way you can watch it.
Really fantastic representation that I think more people can. Obviously, people are always antsy about the way that Disney and films in general do representation, but I feel like you can't be mad if it makes perfect sense for the story. Like,
I mean, I actually think the work that we're doing in, that the studios are doing in terms of trying to add more representation is really great with the right story.
Yeah.
I think that this is a case where the idea of looking at another culture and putting it with this story, I mean, just created such a compelling story and film to watch. It was really amazing.
But yeah, no, so I'm really interested for that one. I wonder where the Badlands will be set.
Yes, I'm curious. That's a bit of a rundown of film news, but we have a lot more to talk about coming up in the show. But we wanted to talk to you about some of the film releases. So for listeners of the show, we have some new films coming out this week. We have Madam Web, which releases on February 14th. So that's already come out.
At least, yeah.
Two days ago. Look, we haven't seen the film. We can't give our thoughts, but I'm sure you've seen some of the news surrounding it, that it is not being that well received. But again, I'm going to reserve my opinions till I see it. But that is coming out this week. So that is available in theaters for those who want to watch it. And then we also have the Bob Marley biopic, Bob Marley One Love. So that is also coming out this week as well. Again, I've heard it's a solid biopic, but it hasn't quite reached the heights that I think some of the other biopics like Elvis, Rocketman, and Bohemian Rhapsody has. I just don't feel like it's connecting with people quite as much as those did, and especially with the media.
Yeah, I didn't see as much advertisement, if any advertisement for this one. I think when
small scale film,
when Elvis was coming out, obviously there was huge PR for that one. Bohemian Rhapsody was the same way. Yeah, but yeah, some of these films, these biopics, they're just getting a lot of PR around them, and that's definitely helping them be more successful. But yeah, I obviously have to see the Bob Marley one to have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
It's just not like something that might interest me as much. I think that's maybe why I haven't heard about it.
Sure.
That's me with biopics in general, that I think I struggle with a lot of them. Just because I don't find the content as interesting necessarily. If I want to learn about a person, I can always read about them online.
Sure.
But I mean, Bob Marley sound like it had a very interesting life from my understanding. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I'll definitely have to see before I can make a good decision about whether or not it's worth watching.
I mean, I've heard the performance by Kingsley Ben-Adir, who we've just recently seen in Barbie.
Yeah.
He apparently delivers an absolutely incredible performance. And I've heard the music's really great, and the film also tackles a lot of issues and goes into a deeper side of Bob Marley's life. I think it doesn't do his entire life. I think it is isolated. It's quite a specific part of his career. And I think that can be a really good way of doing it, where you don't want to, you're trying to combine the whole of someone's life, especially someone like Bob Marley, who was so influential.
Yeah.
And trying to compact that into a 2 to 3 hour film is impossible. So I think going into a certain aspect of his life in a lot of detail can be a really powerful way of doing it.
Yep.
I personally, I know this is controversial, but I felt that with Maestro. And I feel like looking at a specific part of his life was a really powerful way of doing it. You know, some people were disappointed that it didn't go into the music side of his life more. But as someone who didn't know a lot about Leonard Bernstein, I thought that was a really interesting way of going about it. And I thought that Bradley Cooper pulled it off.
Yep.
But yeah, all I'll say about Bob Marley One Love is it is releasing in theaters at the moment, and you can go see it at all the theaters near you. So Toby, I think it's time to get into basically the major news of the week.
Yeah.
The thing that everybody is talking about and that we would be remiss as a show to not talk about. And that is the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
So obviously that was watched by millions of people around the world. Success for the Chiefs. And obviously coming with the Super Bowl, you have the film trailers, which you and I as film nerds are very, very interested in.
Yeah.
And I think we have to start with the major trailer that has been getting the entire world talking.
Yeah.
Disney said it's the most watched trailer of all time.
Yeah.
They are including viewers of the Super Bowl in that statistic, but it's safe to say that this film is generating a lot of publicity, a lot of hype, and what Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy have done with this film is no short of incredible in terms of marketing and publicity.
I have heard that Ryan Reynolds is a little bit disappointed with a lot of the leaks coming out.
Oh, I think that's because there's been a lot of spoilers, and that is something that I think you and I have tried really hard to stay away from.
I think I actually haven't tried that hard. I think I'm. I mean, we might as well get into talking about the movie itself.
Yeah, let's do it.
As much as I enjoyed the first Deadpool film, I can't say I'm like ridiculously excited.
Really?
It's not that I'm like not going to go watch it or anything like that. It's just that it's one of those films that I think will be an enjoyable watch, but I think the hype is very much around the people that enjoy like comic book interpretations, and they really enjoy this the character of Deadpool. And I've once again no issue with it. I actually find it quite enjoyable. It's just something that I'm not ridiculously excited about to go see.
And the teaser trailer at the Super Bowl didn't get you any more excited for it?
Particularly, it didn't. I feel like it didn't show me anything that I didn't really already think was about to happen. I mean, they were. Yeah. I mean, we're going into the spoilers from the ad. If you want to go in with a blind eye, maybe skip a couple of seconds. But they had the what's the TVA?
The TVA were involved in the trailer.
If anything, that made me a little bit more disappointed than excited.
Sure.
To say that they're. I mean, obviously they had to bring the Marvel IP and the Sony IPs together.
They did
to continue the storyline. But my opinion on the Loki show itself and like that area of Marvel, it doesn't excite me as a subject.
Okay.
I think it's a necessary way to progress the story. But I don't know. I think sometimes you need to have standalone films and just let them be as they are. And I think obviously Marvel and perhaps Sony as well were really excited to use Deadpool as a means to connect all the stories together.
I mean, he's Marvel Jesus.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, it's not something that I feel like ridiculously excited or even I feel like I'm just a bit distrusting of it.
Sure.
I feel like there might be some flaws with how it goes.
I differ. I won't lie. I'm very excited for this one. I think as massive fans of both the Deadpool films, to be honest, I found them both really entertaining, enjoyable films. And I love the idea of Sean Levy coming in as director. I think he's a great choice, and his style of filmmaking and comedy blends with the Deadpool tone. And I think, his other films, for listeners who don't know, his other films include Free Guy, Real Steel, Night at the Museum, and The Addams Project.
So my question was is that you said that Sean Levy was a good director for the comedy style of Deadpool. I feel like the films you've listed there are perhaps a little bit more child friendly. Yeah, family friendly humor in that sense. And I agree that the films aren't good or that Sean Levy won't do a good job. I just think that the Deadpool comedy, at least for the original one for me, was a lot more adult in theme.
Yes. Yeah.
And not to say that the advertisement showed really childish humor.
No,
and didn't. But yeah, I'll be interested to see then why you would think that his direction style would work with Deadpool.
I think that Sean Levy has a certain tone in terms of humor that, yes, at the moment he's done a lot of child-friendly films, Night at the Museum, especially Real Steel, Free Guy. These are all M-rated films. They're not R-rated. And they are to a different audience than you're necessarily going to get with Deadpool. But I think his way of filming action, his way of developing a story and an interesting character that is sort of fantastical in nature. I mean, Free Guy itself is filmed in a video game, and I just think Deadpool is this larger than life character that, you know, Ryan Reynolds absolutely just encapsulates. I think that Sean Levy is a really interesting choice and can do a lot with the role. I think he has this life and energy in his films that really match that of Deadpool, because Deadpool is an energetic film. You're never bored in a Deadpool movie, no matter if you see it for the first time or the 10th time.
Yeah,
that film just has an energy about it that no one can doubt. And Sean Levy, I feel like, will bring that energy to the film.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a fair analysis, I suppose.
So for our listeners, the teaser trailer told us that it's going to be released on July 26th in theaters. So that's another thing to look forward to seeing in theaters. We are going to talk about the rest of the Super Bowl announcements and trailers. Yeah. I think the other major announcement / trailer was Twisters, which is directed by Lee Isaac Chung, whose other films include Minari, which was a 2020 A24 film, a beautiful film. But it's safe to say that is a wildly different film than Twisters, which is about tornadoes.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Twisters?
I'm keen. I'm really keen.
Yeah. I feel like it's a very you film.
Yeah, I never saw the original. Mainly because I had like a crippling fear of natural disasters when I was a child. We don't live in Melbourne, so I was, for whatever reason, terrified that a tsunami would somehow get through the heads and just kill us.
Because Australia is known.
Yeah,
in tsunamis.
Yeah, for tsunamis. I mean, basically, all we got to worry about is bushfires, and we live in like suburbia.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever reason, and I had like a fascination with Tornado Alley in America. I also got called.
Yeah.
So my mum said I'd love the film, but I was always too scared to watch it. So
have you ever seen one?
Tornado?
Yeah.
I had a lot.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I have.
I've seen an Australian tornado, so like, you know, like when it gets the...
That's what I mean. It's like, that's what I saw. To be fair. Thanks for ruining that. But yeah, I did see one of those little ones.
It was massive. Yeah, of a whole meter square. Yeah.
It blew a dustbin over. Okay.
We had some horrific wind the other day.
Oh, we did. Yeah. So you never know. This is part of a major marketing run by Universal and WB. They're like, let's get wind around the world and get people.
That's how we get them. Yeah. Whenever I feel wind, I'm like, oh,
Twisted's coming out. Yeah. Go check that one out.
But you know, I'm really keen for it. I mean, the advertisement, like, it was a good ad. The only thing that got me a little bit was like the plot seemed a little bit like science fiction, a bit too much from what I understand about the original one.
You mean a film about giant tornadoes and...
Yeah. No. I mean, like, I think conceptually tornadoes in themselves are scary enough. And
they are.
A lot around... I can't remember what the original one's about. But yeah, like, I think at the ad they had like some technology where they were trying to stop a tornado. My question is why?
Yeah.
Doing that. I mean, like, I guess it's, you know, the sense of like, we got to protect the world from natural disasters and stuff like that. But I'm sure the plot won't ruin it.
Yeah.
Who's the lead in this one? It's
Daisy Edgar Jones. Glenn Powell. He was in
he's a bit of
the film Devotion with Jonathan Majors, and he's also in Anyone But You.
I've only seen him in Top Gun, and he was a very dislikable character. So maybe he'll be different. You know, like when you see a character who plays like a dick one time, and you just associate that character with him. That's
or is that just he was an amazing actor in Top Gun? Yeah, he did. Yeah. He achieved what you needed.
I'm excited, really excited for Twister, just because as I said, I've got like this, I don't know, obsession with natural disasters.
Yeah,
and I did as a child, which I think will be good to watch on the big screen.
Yeah, and I think beyond just the cast, which I think excites me by itself, with Glenn Powell, Daisy Edgar Jones, Anthony Ramos, and apologies if I'm saying this wrong, Maura Tierney, who was in The Iron Claw. I think the film conceptually, whilst it's probably going to be quite basic of a plot, the idea of seeing tornadoes with the updated visual effects and production values of what we have now, I think it's a film that can be remade now, or, you know, if it's not remade, but a sequel to it, and can kind of deliver that shock and fear that the original did for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And another thing that really excites me is this is going to be an IMAX release. So I think that as Toby knows, I know our listeners don't, but I am a huge IMAX supporter, and I love what they've done with the format. what Nolan has done, and we're going to get Dune Part 2, which we've already got tickets to. I think that Twisters on IMAX will be a incredible experience. We'll be really excited to see that. So for our listeners, it is coming to theaters and IMAX in July. So that's something we can look forward to for the rest of this year.
Nice.
This one, I'd safe to say I don't think you and I really are the people who this is going to appeal to, but Knuckles, a 6-part series of the character Knuckles from the Sonic franchise, is coming to Paramount Plus. There's going to be a TV miniseries starring Idris Elba, Adam Pally, and Kid Cudi.
Cast.
It's an incredible cast. Yeah, I believe Idris Elba is Knuckles.
And he played Knuckles in the...
I haven't seen the one, but it's going to be streaming on April 26th. So that's Paramount Plus. That is coming to 6-part series.
Yeah.
I know that the Sonic franchise has its supporters and is successful.
Yeah.
Personally, it doesn't necessarily excite me. I appreciate the films and I do find them really enjoyable. But it's not necessarily a series that is going to make me invest in Paramount Plus, because that's something I don't have. I don't think that's enough to make me go to it, but I think that for subscribers and for fans of the Sonic franchise, it's a great move by Paramount.
Yeah, something for sure. It is Idris Elba.
It is Idris Elba, yeah.
Which is so funny to me.
Yeah, and in the trailer does look really fun. I think for those who are fans of the Sonic films, it is going to absolutely be a really fun ride.
Yeah,
especially with people like Kid Cudi and people like that in it, and Idris Elba. It's just going to be a lot of fun.
So random.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I mean, yeah, if you love the franchise, it could be worthwhile to watch. I actually don't know how it's received from like hardcore Sonic fans.
I believe it's well received, and especially after, I mean, the controversy that surrounded the first film before it came out, where it's the first time I've ever seen an audience, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but bullied video into completely redesigned a character.
Honestly, thank goodness. Could you imagine?
I know. I do think that the new design was absolutely the right way to go, and I think given how many films we're getting, and I've heard the performances by Jim Carrey in it is really enjoyable as well.
Yeah.
I absolutely see this show being successful on the streaming platform. Let's move on to a film I'm really excited for. This is one that I know it's getting mixed press, but I think a lot of people are also sharing my thoughts on it being really exciting. But that is The Fall Guy. So we got a very, very brief teaser of that during the Super Bowl. But it's called The Fall Guy, and it's directed by David Leitch, whose other films, I mean, gosh, where do you start? I mean, co-directed John Wick, Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, Bullet Train, some of the definitive action films of this generation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's starring Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling, Winston Duke, Stephanie Zhu. It has the potential to be enjoyable.
It certainly does. From the advertisement, I was a little bit skeptical, but it's, to be fair, it was the exact same way that I felt about Bullet Train.
Yes, I felt the same way.
It seems like an odd film to make.
Yeah.
Set on a bullet train.
Yeah, I think we've seen this before.
Funny. So we're a good funny film.
Yeah.
Like, look, not like revolutionary in the story that tells.
No.
Look, I'll reserve my feelings towards it until I see it. It could be funny. There's a chance that it's like Hobbs and Shaw, a little bit more on like the not as good end, I suppose, as compared to some of the Bullet Train. So you got your highs, you've got your middle class type of stuff. But I mean, Ryan Gosling,
killing it at the moment.
He's doing well. He's doing really well.
Yeah,
a funny guy.
Yeah, Emily Blunt as well. I mean, their chemistry should be amazing. Yeah, I mean, they're two incredible leading actors and actresses in Hollywood.
Yeah.
That is coming on May 3rd, and it's being distributed by Universal, and that is also getting an IMAX release, as far as I'm aware. I mean, subject to change, IMAX it doesn't necessarily mean it's filmed with IMAX cameras and things like that, but it's absolutely going to be available for people on IMAX, and it is, coming to theaters on May 3rd. This is probably one of the biggest trailers that came out of the Super Bowl, besides Deadpool.
Interesting
one. I can't believe quite how big this film is expected to be, and how
it's a part one.
It is a part one.
Just wicked.
And we've given it away. It'll keep you guys. We try to build suspense. Safe to say we're getting better at that as we go. But or maybe we're not. Who knows? But it is Wicked, which is directed by John M. Chu.
Yeah.
His other films include Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights. I mean, Crazy Rich Asians was a cultural phenomenon when it came out.
Yeah.
I mean, it really
very not stunning film.
It was a stunning film.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was just the environment.
I think it holds up. I've seen it multiple times, and the comedy works. The characters are interesting, and it's one of those films you can easily rewatch many times.
It is interesting though, because Crazy Rich Asians is an interpretation of a novel, from my understanding,
right?
And Wicked is obviously a play show, musical, I suppose. So it'll be interesting to see how, because he obviously interpreted Crazy Rich Asians. From my understanding, it's a little bit different,
sure,
in some respects, but still a well-received movie. But I think the diehard fans of theatre could be a little bit more strict with how they want their beloved show to be interpreted. So it'll be interesting to see how I guess all the movie makers do with.
I think John M. Chu is a great choice. I think he could do a lot with it. His films are a bit like David Leitch, some of the other directors on this list, like Sean Levy. He has a really good energy to him, and the films he makes are really sort of, I think they're very much for a wide audience. They're really enjoyable to a lot of people. I believe In the Heights is a musical, so I think he has had experience with musicals in the past. It is releasing on Thanksgiving, and it is, as Toby said, a part 1 of 2, with part 2 expected in 2025. It's quite a quick turnaround.
Okay.
It is coming to theaters and IMAX, so it is going to be a massive IMAX release.
Yeah, CG film, do you reckon?
This is probably the trailer I have the most criticism for.
Okay.
Because I don't think the visuals entice me as much as the idea of Wicked being adapted to film.
Yeah.
Because I think from what I've heard, it is a film that can translate to cinema, and it does have a lot of really important characters, really interesting plot points. But what makes me nervous is, one, they seem to be really hiding the fact that it's a musical. I mean, in the trailer, you don't see anyone sing.
Yeah.
It's continuing Hollywood's trend at the moment of hiding the fact that their film and Wonka and films like that they're hiding the fact that these films in their marketing that are musicals. And don't get me wrong, this is only a teaser trailer. I'm sure we'll get another trailer coming out later this year. But that's the one part that made me a bit nervous. Was I wasn't blown away with the visuals and the look of it. I'm not saying that, again, it's a teaser trailer. That could absolutely change, and most of the time in these trailers, CGI is not finalized and things like that as well. And especially if they give you an IMAX release, they must trust in the visuals and the audio to it.
Yeah.
But and the fact that they are hiding the fact that it's a musical, because I feel like again, they're trying to appeal to an audience that, again, studios are hiding the fact that these films are musicals, and then people are getting in and, I mean, have you seen some of the reactions to Wonka when he starts singing? I mean, I'm not, and again, a lot of people enjoy Wonka, and a lot of people enjoyed the other musicals that have come out.
Mean Girls was pretty funny.
Exactly, and these films have done. I mean, Wonka's been really critically acclaimed, and people are really enjoying that film. But I just think that it's interesting that they're still going for that with Wicked, which is an adaptation of a musical. And I think that's the interesting part, where are they appealing to fans of the plot of the musical stage show, or are they trying to bring in new viewers? That's what I'm not sure on. Who do you think their audience is?
I don't know. I feel like anytime that you do a musical in this respect, or like go over to an existing IP, you're gonna inevitably gonna bring in some of the original fans. Like, whether or not you're appealing to them, you're gonna bring them in. And I feel like if you're not considering that, you're doing something wrong. Yeah. I mean, you look at the Mean Girls, the people that loved the film, like the original film, probably weren't as big as a fan of the movie because it was a musical. But Mean Girls was a musical on Broadway. If you're going to watch it after that, you might have very much well enjoyed it. I think the original Mean Girls is hilarious. And I thought the remake was fine. Like, I think that it's weird to compare them as like one of the musical and one's not. The story is consistent enough between the two. And they're different in the respect of, like, their comedy's slightly different. Obviously the musical is a bit more of a modern day one, a little bit more PC considering the time.
Yes.
But yeah, for a stage show like Wicked, you're not going to have the original Wizard of Oz fans coming out to get blown away by Wicked. Yeah. So I think realistically they should be making it for the musical fans. Yeah, more than anyone else. But then you're also going into the casting. I think if you're talking about
go into the casting. Come on, let's tell us who there is.
So there's Ariana Grande, which I think is an interesting one. This will be her first return to like a major position in cinema or like TV for a while.
But I think would be incredible in terms of the music, though. I think that's a really great choice in terms of from the musical point of view.
Yep. It will be interesting. Jeff Cobbs. What's Goldblum doing there?
Yeah, he just appears.
He just
in everything. I do love Jeff randomly appearing in
Michelle. Is it Yeoh?
Michelle Yeoh. I mean,
Brilliant. You know.
Yeah. Toby's a massive fan of Michelle Yeoh with Everything Everywhere All at Once, Safely being one of your favorite films.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's brilliant. So I think just to see her performance, I think it'll go. But yeah, it'll be interesting with the cast to see how it goes. And with the part one, what are you thinking of? I mean, Spider-Verse did the same thing, or is it part one?
Yeah,
rather than just.
I mean, June did as well.
Yeah. What are you thinking of all these films splitting themselves in half?
When it's done well, it works. So for me, I know a lot of people disagree with this, but I think June 1, part 1, works by itself.
Yeah.
I really do. I feel like it does give a conclusion to the character.
Yeah.
I won't go into any spoilers and stuff, so I'm not talking about June. But I feel like the way that character wraps up and stuff in the end really works. Spider-Verse, and Across the Spider-Verse specifically, worked really well until the last 2 minutes for me.
Yeah.
Well, the build-up to the end really is an incredible piece of animation. But I know a lot of people love the cliffhanger. I personally didn't. I thought that it was. I rewatch it now, and it's hard because I know that it's going there, and I'm not going to get that for a while. And don't get me wrong, when I get that part 2, it's going to be an incredible watch to do it all together. But I do think people say, "What is your review of Across the Spider-Verse? Why don't you talk about it?" I feel like I can't. I really do.
It's when you're looking at, I suppose, when you have like a part 1 and part 2, it's like for a standalone film, you still need those 3 arcs of film to make you feel complete. To like an extent, you can always bench around a little bit, but like with a pretty traditional story that you would expect from, say, Spider-Man, when you're like kind of doing that in the film, but then you have to leave it on a cliffhanger because that's the part of the film that's meant to be like engaging when you put the 2 films together.
Yeah,
like it's the rising in tension, and then when you end there, obviously you're going to feel dissatisfied. And I think, some people can love the cliffhanger. I think people just love...
And the film is great. Like, it's an incredible film. Genuinely an amazing feat of animation. But just that part, some people can rewatch that film multiple times.
Yeah.
I will always go back to Into the Spider-Verse because I feel like for me, I'm sitting down and watch a film, like, get that complete experience. So with Wicked, back to what we're talking about, I feel like that is how I feel with this, where part 1 feels like a complete story. If it delivers an incredible IMAX experience for me, the music's great, if the acting's great, and it delivers a really interesting interpretation of the stage show, I feel like it could be a home run for the entire team.
Yeah.
But you're right, with the part 1 or part 2 is the only part, besides necessarily my opinions on the trailer, is what is reserving me from being really excited for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back to Disney again with their sequels. The major announcement by Disney coming from the Super Bowl was Inside Out 2. Yeah. Now, this has already been announced. You sort of know about this for a while, but we sort of got a little teaser. I feel like a lot of us are fans of the Kung Fu Panda trilogy of films.
I'll stand by it. Kung Fu Panda trilogy is one of the best animated trilogies.
You heard it here first.
It's so good. So that's why I'm actually not sure how I feel about Kung Fu Panda 4.
Really? You're not hyped for it?
Not hugely. I feel like first of all, the second Kung Fu Panda film, brilliant.
Yes.
The third one is a pretty good conclusion to the story, and I think it was fine where it was. And sometimes I feel like they're just reaching at things for the sake of continuing IP.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's good they got Jack Black back.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think obviously they didn't have him. It wouldn't work. My one that I find interesting, Awkwafina's showing up everywhere.
Yes. She's been really big with voice acting. She was in The Little Mermaid, I believe.
Was she?
She voiced one of the sea creatures, I believe. I might be wrong, but that, as far as I'm aware, she did.
Yeah, so yeah, she's popping up everywhere. She is disappointed that it doesn't seem like the original cast isn't as hugely involved in it for like some of the characters like Tigress and
because they weren't in the teaser, were they?
No, not like that. I think they're still a part of it.
But I think they are trying to build
a major part.
I don't know if they did a lot of the story in the teaser. They didn't go into a lot of it.
The secondary major character of the film, if they give her like a full story arc and stuff like that, even if they do a TV show or something like that, they might do the show to keep content.
They could do.
Yeah, it's one that like sometimes I think you need to let sleeping dogs lie because the film, the trilogy that is Kung Fu Panda is just fine the way it is. So mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So continuing on our conversation about the Super Bowl trailers, we have If. This film is directed and written by John Krasinski, stars Ryan Reynolds, John Krasinski, Kaylee Fleming, Steve Carell, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It's coming to theaters in May 2024 and it's being distributed by Paramount.
Yeah, massive cast for what I imagine will be a pretty standard children's film. Not to take away from it, but by the looks of it, it looks like it will be big and well received. I think Ryan Reynolds will definitely bring in a younger crowd. He's very popular in some of the films that he's done recently. He was in Free Guy. He was in Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he's known by kids, and I imagine he's well liked by them for some of the films that he's done. So I think Ryan Reynolds will also be a really good name to attach to that to bring people into a new IP.
Yeah, I agree. And another teaser trailer we got was A Quiet Place Day 1. So it's looking to be a prequel to the other A Quiet Place films going into the first day that it all began. Yeah. This one is being directed by Michael Sanofsky, who did previous film Pig. This one had Nicolas Cage. It stars Joseph Quinn, Jimon Honsu, Lupita Nyong'o, and Alex Wolff, and it's going to come to theaters in June.
Yeah,
so that's one I'm quite excited for. Again, a prequel,
Yeah, and also missing John Krasinski has been busy with If. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they do without him.
Yeah, absolutely. Those films have been, incredible.
Yeah, good
modern horror. Yeah, I think for me, I don't have as much love with them as other people do. I appreciate them and I enjoy them.
Yeah,
but they're not, the definitive horror film as they are to other people.
No.
But I do have an appreciation for them, and I'm interested in revisiting this one.
Yeah,
seeing how it all began.
Yeah.
Another film that sort of flew under the radar a little bit, but we have Imaginary. This film, I don't believe, actually got a trailer during the Super Bowl, but it was around the time of it, during that weekend. And it's an American supernatural horror film, which is written and directed by Jeff Wadlow. I mean, his previous films include Truth or Dare, Fantasy Island, Kick-Ass 2. So fairly sort of, they're interesting films. They're horror films that I think appeal to quite a variety of people. They're sort of
it's a Blumhouse.
It's a Blumhouse film. It's horror films that aren't going to be incredibly brutal, disgusting and gory horror, but they're going to create a really tense atmosphere.
Yes, some jump scares for you. Imaginative ways to do the jump scares, I think, is always something that you see in these types of films, which would be good. I think it's very funny that it's not to spoil it too much, but it seems like it's about imaginary friends at the same time that a children's movie is coming out about imaginary friends. So hopefully people aren't going to get confused over the two of them. That's if it stays in cinemas. It's coming in
March. So you're going to be able to see this one fairly shortly.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I always love a good horror flick. So we'll see how it is. One of the ones I think you are pretty keen for is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes, I am a massive fan of that original trilogy. I think it's Rise, Dawn, War. I don't know if I got the order right, but
He's right.
Those films are amazing. When Matt Reeves took it over for the second and the third, they just went up in quality. The first one is still amazing. I watched it fairly recently. I just think they're really good action films that go into a lot of interesting themes, identity, what your purpose is in this world. Obviously, it's coming at it from a perspective of apes trying to survive and overcoming a lot of awful things that are done to them. I mean, it says a lot about how we test our products. It has a lot of issues that it covers in terms of animal cruelty and things like that. So I think it's a franchise that has done very well in terms of every single edition has done something new, has offered something different, has posed new questions. This is being directed by a completely new director for the franchise. It's being directed by Wes Ball. Now, Wes Ball's other films include the Maze Runner films, which I'm actually a fan of. I thought they were really good. And I'm really excited to see sort of a younger, up-and-coming director tackle such a big, massive scale film.
Yeah.
It is going to be set many years after the last film, War. It is coming in May and it will be in theaters. But it's being distributed by, of course, 20th Century Fox, so Disney. And I'm really interested to see what they do. I thought the teaser trailer was good.
Yeah.
I thought it is going to be different from what we've seen before.
Okay.
But I do think there is a little bit of grittiness it lacked. Because I thought that the films before that had a real raw.
Yeah.
I thought Matt Reeves brings, as we've seen in the Batman and other films he's done, this grittiness, this realness, this darkness. Yeah, it's this tone that I feel like Westball's going in a new direction. And that is absolutely not a criticism. I think that it's good that they're going in a new direction. I just hope it holds up to what we've seen before, because it's, I mean, a lot of pressure on Westball to come into a franchise that is not only critically acclaimed, but really beloved by fans of the franchise.
Yeah.
So I think I'm glad he's coming in and directing it, and I everything I've seen so far has been interesting, but it does make me nervous because of the legacy that it has to maintain itself with.
Sure. One that we'll quickly mention is the Shogun Hulu series. So that's Hulu in Australia. Or is that
That's Disney Plus here.
Yes, Hulu in the US. In the US. So it's set in Japan, obviously, with the Shoguns. It's streaming in Feb, so it's currently streamed.
I believe it is now.
Yeah. And so far, as of this podcast, it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
yeah, that's very early days though.
Yeah,
it is sort of critics reviews, not many reviews on the site at the moment, but apparently it's got incredible production values, and it's going to deliver a really interesting watch for everyone at home.
Yeah, no worries.
And then the next one we have is Monkey Man. I mean, directed and produced by Dev Patel, produced by Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
What more do you need to say?
Yeah, no, it looks good. I love some Jordan Peele's done some fantastic work with what he's producing and directing. So I'm interested in this one. There was just a teaser trailer. We didn't see
very brief.
But from what it was, it seemed like it was themed in an area that I'd definitely be interested in. So yeah, I think I would be keen to see that. I don't know how much more I feel like I need to see to understand what the plot's going to be about, or even if I want to. Is it one of those films that you just want to go and see in the cinemas and be surprised by it? Because I feel like that's what me and you really like about Jordan Peele. Like we went into Nope fairly blind and were blown away by it because of we didn't have any spoilers essentially. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it.
I absolutely feel the same way. The less I know, I feel like the better. The fact that it looks like a gritty action film. I mean, directed and produced by Dev Patel, as we said, Jordan Peele's involvement. I think that by itself says all we need to know.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite teaser trailers have been for Jordan Peele's films, where you just don't know what it's about, but you get this tone and this idea of the horror elements and what he's going to go into. I feel like that's all I want to know with Monkey Man as well. I just want to know the tone. I want to know sort of what genre it's going to be in, and I want to go in and be surprised.
Yep.
That is coming to the end of our main Super Bowl trailers. We should mention that you and I are massive fans of The Boys.
Yep.
We had a TV spot.
I think it's definitely having a dig at some of the political events that are going on right now. We're seeing a huge rise in support for the Republican Party, which the show has been particularly critical of in its history, and I think people are misinterpreting that to some extent. But yeah, I'll be interested to see where they go with the season. We obviously love The Boys. I said we're going to talk about superheroes when we talk about The Boys, but we might have to skip over it. We can come back to it another week. But yeah, from what we saw, it wasn't anything hugely, like we weren't getting any spoilers from it or anything.
No, nothing related really to the new season as far as I was aware.
Yeah,
it's just little snippets.
Yeah, so just a little teaser. But yeah, I'm excited for when The Boys comes out. I think that would be certainly something that I'm rushing to watch.
Absolutely, I feel the same way. The Boys has been a favorite TV show of ours for a while now. It's definitely been something you and I have been interested in, and I think that the TV spot was a very humorous and very enjoyable little addition to the variety of trailers we got.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening to the Super Bowl part of our show. We're just going to go into some very new news that has come out over the past couple of days that it would be completely remiss of us to not at least mention.
Yeah.
But we did get an announcement of the Fantastic Four cast. So we are going to see a cast including Pedro Pascal. We're going to see Joseph Quinn, Vanessa Kirby, and Ebon Moss Bachrach. I don't know how you say that. I mean, these actors have been really popular and successful. I mean, we had obviously Pedro Pascal coming out of The Last of Us, and then we had Ebon coming out of The Bear. And obviously Vanessa Kirby's involvement in Mission Impossible recently, and some other amazing films as well. I haven't seen much about Joseph Quinn, but I know he's been in a few major releases.
He was in Stranger Things, which
Stranger Things. That's it.
I haven't watched, but he got the fangirls going crazy about him.
Yeah,
I think the character that he's playing is
Johnny Storm.
So I think that could work really well with, character casting. In that sense, we'll see how it goes. But I mean, it's interesting. The only one I'm not entirely sure about is actually Pedro Pascal. I think.
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
I think he's a brilliant actor. I'm just not sure if he's right for the role.
Okay. All right.
I mean, after seeing Shaped, I feel like if they're going to keep it original, to the comic books, which I feel like Marvel might have to go in that direction to satisfy their hardcore fans, he might be just a little bit wrong casting. I think John Krasinski was fine when he was in Doctor Strange.
Yes.
I don't know why I didn't stick with him necessarily. I mean, maybe he was just there for the cameo and got taken on his way. But that's the only one I'm not sure about. That's not even like I don't think he's the right person for it. I just have to wait and see. And being Pedro Pascal, he'll definitely prove me wrong, won't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's safe to say he's a massive actor in Hollywood, and his recent projects have been wildly successful, including The Mandalorian and, of course, The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And then other sort of new news, we have filmmaker Bong Joon-ho, of course, renowned for his work on Parasite, which is a personal favorite.
Yeah, really good film.
He is set to direct the most expensive Korean film ever made. It is going to be an animated film about deep sea creatures. That is going to be a major release from Korea.
Yep.
And it's safe to say anything Bong Joon-ho does, I'm absolutely interested in.
Yeah, I'll be really keen for that one.
Totally. And that is going to get a global release by Sony Pictures.
Yep.
Clearly they believe in the work as well.
Yep.
So Toby and I did see a film this week. We saw The Iron Claw. And so we're going to be going into our non-spoiler thoughts on the film. We will go into a spoiler segment, but we will absolutely put banners up and let you know that is going to happen. But we'll go into our non-spoiler review, and then we'll go into our spoiler review at the end. But I'll just give you a brief rundown of what the film is. I mean, it's a true story by A24 on the Von Erich brothers, and they were involved in the competitive world of professional wrestling in the early 1980s.
Yep.
And Wikipedia says that through tragedy and triumph, the brothers seek larger-than-life immortality on the biggest stage in sports. This film stars Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, Lily James, Harris Dickinson, and Holt McCallany, who plays the father. It is directed by Sean Durkin, and it's being critically acclaimed around the world. Massive film from A24. A lot of people are saying it was snubbed at the Oscars.
Yeah.
But yeah, massive film. Let's start with you. What are your thoughts on the film? Should people go out and see this in theaters before it leaves?
I would say it's a really good film. I'll save my commentary on other parts of it until we get to the spoiler section, because unfortunately I will have to discuss spoilers. It is a really good film. The acting, undeniably brilliant. The direction it was taken in, fantastic. The scenes, choreography for the wrestling matches, stuff like that, all really good. Story as well, for what it was, really good story. Tearjerker, but we'll warn you that much.
Did you know much about the Von Erichs before you went into?
I don't know anything about the Von Erichs before I went into the film. Having done my research post the film, I do think it takes away a little bit. Not a little bit, a fair bit. So if you want to go in with a blind eye, and you can do that, absolutely. There are some issues that I don't think are discussed in the film that perhaps should have been. But I'll talk about that in the spoiler section a little bit more.
Right. But ultimately, you'd recommend everyone to go out and watch this film?
I'd say yes.
Okay.
To some extent. It's hard to say. It's a film that I think is really good, but because of some of the politics of it, it's a little bit more controversial.
Okay. No, that's totally fair. I'll give sort of my brief thoughts as well. I was a big fan of this film. I went in sort of with a filmmaker's sort of brain.
Yeah.
And I think it absolutely, from a production point of view, from even a story point of view, I thought it really hit all the right notes for me. Yep. I actually agree with you that upon research outside, there were elements that I thought should have been incorporated or at least mentioned or gone into. But ultimately, I understand that it is a film, needs to keep it within a runtime. And I thought everything they brought to the screen was done in a really well done, respectful manner.
Yeah.
I thought the performances, Zac Efron, monumental performance.
One of his best performances.
They certainly cared about their performance and upholding the family, and I just thought they did a tremendous job.
Yeah.
Sean Durkin as well had some amazing direction within the film.
For sure.
I thought the suspense within the wrestling scenes and the emotional weight of the film were absolutely maintained by Sean Durkin, and he did a really incredible job with that.
Yeah.
I think we're really impressed with the physical abilities.
Yes, yeah. I did want to talk briefly about the physiques that the actors put on. So Zac Efron looks fantastic. Really well built body for the character that he was playing. So obviously, in Baywatch, he'd put on a lot of mass, a lot of muscle mass. But for this film, he was a different beast. He was massive. And I thought that was, it looked fantastic for the film. Same with Jerry Allen White, also put on so much weight. I was saying that I don't even know how he's going to slim down to perform in The Bear, because just the amount of weight that he had put on to play this character, it would be impressive for him to slim down for the next season of The Bear coming out. I think it's coming out pretty soon as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is the case with Harris Dickinson as well. He is tremendous in what he achieves within his role.
Yeah. There's those all kinds recognizable in how they're built and how they're performing, which is fantastic. For what they've done for the cast. So
yeah. So ultimately, I would 100% recommend everyone go out and see this film. A24 has come out again with another incredible film. I think if you're really interested in watching family drama, I think that's something we were going to talk about, where I think people are going in expecting this sort of inspirational sport, not thriller, going in thinking it's going to be Creed or Rocky or films like that. I'd say it's a lot more similar to films like Raging Bull. Even in some of the black and white shots that they use, there's a lot of references to Raging Bull. Basically, it's a family drama that encapsulates the story of people who wrestle, and I think people should go in expecting that. It is a very deep character study about brothers in this family, and that is how people should go into this film expecting that. The sporting elements are incredible and really well done, and I heard that they casted a lot of their stunts themselves, and you can feel that is very visceral, very raw filmmaking that they use in filming those sequences, and it absolutely pays off. And I couldn't recommend this film more. Whilst it does have its flaws, it's a great time at the movies, and it's definitely going to make you feel a lot of emotions. It's definitely going to hit you in where it needs to. So we're going to move into our spoilers section now. Before we do, we just want to say that it's a film you should go out and see. We are going to save our numbers rating, our way of signposting that you should go see a film.
Yeah, claps.
Our claps. So we're going to give the film claps related to, obviously, the podcast name, The Clap. We're going to tell you how many claps it deserves. And basically, for those of you who don't want to listen ahead, if you want to go in without any spoilers, we recommend this film, but feel free to skip to the end and hear our thoughts on how many claps. Our rating of it, exactly, sorry. Our rating of it, and but please stop listening now or skip to the end if you don't want to hear our spoiler thoughts. So Toby, do you want to kick us off with the spoiler section?
All right, let's talk about Nazis.
Right.
No, so one of the major plot points of the film is that there's a family curse, and that's why, more spoilers, a lot of the brothers end up dying in the film. Is they believe they have this family curse. And in the film, it's actually not explained why there was a family curse. And
wasn't it related to the older brother who they referred to as being the older brother?
So the father, Fritz von Erich, his caricature that he played in wrestling was a Nazi. He was at least a Nazi heel. So essentially, he was playing a villainous character for the sake of wrestling, and he just so happened to be like a German nationalist. So it's said, and I think it was an author, David Schumacher, that said in his book, The Squared Circle, Life, Death, and Professional Wrestling, that the ghost of a Holocaust survivor was the one to put the curse on the family. And I think that is a very important part that the film could have touched on, and it didn't. And I find it very interesting that they didn't touch on it.
So you seem to have some thoughts. Why do you think they didn't go that direction? Do you think it was runtime, or do you think it was another element that would take away from the emotion felt with the death of the brothers?
I think it adds a level of nuance to characters that they perhaps didn't want. I think that, I'm going to be entirely honest with you, the way that they portray Kevin Von Erich, the surviving brother, is a very positive light. You think he's this really idealistic, good Christian boy, and he's done some not done some flawed things, done some flawed things in my mind, and then also like the success of the family is off. I mean, also the bad parts of the family is off the fact that the father was criticized for making light of the Holocaust, essentially. So that's definitely a part of the film. But I think it wouldn't have taken away from it. I don't know why they didn't put it in.
Well, remember, the family was involved in the creation. The director did write the film before even talking to the family. He definitely wanted a completely separate story. He wanted to come at it from a perspective that wasn't influenced by the family.
Yeah.
But they did watch the film and they were involved in the production.
Yeah.
But maybe that was a fact.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I feel about biopics quite often, is that if you have this family like being so involved in the script writing and the production of the film, is that it can take away some of the parts that maybe frame the characters, these real people, in a negative light. That's the difference between having a character that is a character within the story and a character who's actually a real person. Like, and that's not to say that you can't have a biopic about someone who was just generally a good person. Like, that's, if they were genuinely those things, then all the power to you. But I think when you're stripping away elements of someone, I mean, they didn't even frame Fritz von Erich in a positive light. He was
absolutely not. No, he was an awful character,
hierarchical family guy. Like he was not a great person. Even at the end of the story, I feel like you really had to resent him.
No, but I think one part of the film that the film did really well was you believed that the brothers really idolized him and they wanted to make him proud. They wanted to achieve all the things that Fritz was 100% like nailing into them, that this is what you need to achieve, this is what you need to be a man.
Yeah.
And that part I thought really worked. And the fact that these brothers really idolized this man whilst knowing that there were flaws within him. And that was especially clear with the brother who was into music and not into wrestling, where you saw how they treated him versus, you know, the characters that were involved in wrestling, and the fact that he always told people his favorites and things like that, where it really, I agree with you, painted the father character in a very negative light.
Yeah, so that's kind of my confusion around why they were perhaps afraid to, or they didn't want to show this part of his character that was very much relevant to the entire story. Like the curse was, you know, this plot point that was kind of used as like it's not an explanation, but, you know, as like whoa, there's something going on here, like but then actually explain what the curse comes from, and the even more controversial background towards it. And I think it also, we're going into some very relevant politics, Kevin Von Erich, and perhaps to spite his father's past and perceived anti-Semitism, has become quite involved and vocal about his support for Israel as a country. We actually saw that in him traveling to Israel at the start of this year for the premiere of The Iron Claw in Israel, which I think is something that definitely needs to be discussed, to the extent that we can understand that how are we portraying characters in a positive light, or how are we showing them in media versus their actual actions. And I don't want to get too deeply into like the political sides of everything, but I think it's certainly interesting when in biopics in particular we feel a necessity to depoliticize them when it's inevitably impossible, because these characters and people, some of them are still alive. So their actions do have consequences, their ideologies have consequences, and therefore the film, in the substance that it is, also has consequences. And I think that's definitely a discussion that needs to happen.
So yeah, your issues with the film lie in how it frames these characters in regards to how they really are. That the film itself is well done in what it tries to achieve, but it's missing key elements of the characters and the real life part, that it's hard to go into this film looking at it from a biopic point of view, where, don't get me wrong, the events of the film are real, but there's a lot of ideological elements that form the basis of a lot of the characters that are glossed over or not explored. Yeah. And that is absolutely a factor in considering the film. For those who have clearly seen the film now, as this is the spoiler section, I feel like unless you know that, it doesn't, going in blind.
Deeply take away from it. I just know it's something that needs to be considered. And it's not even just this film. There's so many films where the creators, the people, actors, the people that are portraying stuff like that, like where our current morals don't even align with theirs, but we go into it in this way that's kind of like, we're going to overlook this. And I think at this point in time, it's very difficult to. And I mean, going into a completely different media form, like Kanye's just released his new album.
Right.
And at least I feel like I'm not going to consume that media, that content, because of the way that he's ideologically framed himself. I think when it comes to the way that we're consuming media and art, we need to be very aware of the way that media portrays people or can allow people to do certain things. And I think it's just generally a conversation that it's going to be right now, because there's no accountability that we can hold to anyone realistically. It's more about the consumers and like what your morality is and how you want to be perceived in consuming things. And if you don't agree with something, perhaps consider whether or not you want to consume media that either glosses over it or sometimes blatantly hides it.
I feel, for me, I look at the film as it is by itself. I won't lie. Knowing the outside things only make me feel like the film had gone into this stuff. They shouldn't have shied away from it. But I feel like I will go and watch the film again, and it won't take away from what I'm seeing on screen. That the story they tell, and it is true, the stuff that they tell. There are certain elements that the one part of external research that I thought was interesting was they actually didn't include one of the Von Erich brothers in the film. That there was actually another brother, and they didn't include him in the film. He tragically died of suicide. They didn't include that in the film, and I thought that was an interesting decision. But I also understand that the film can only do so much.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that. Where this film could have easily been dragged out into a limited series or something like that and gone into a lot more elements. But I'm really glad they did hold it up as a film, because I thought it had an amazing structure to it. It was well filmed, well directed.
Yeah.
The choreography for the fight scenes, every part of the filmmaking and story aspect within the film was really well.
I don't want to take away from the people that made the film in itself. I'm just talking about like the repercussions of the way that it was made and perhaps the story that it told. I do think generally the Nazi part of the story, it could have been so easily involved without being hugely controversial. Like, when has film ever really shied away from showing someone as a Nazi? And as I said, Fritz von Erich isn't an idealized character. You're not meant to like him.
No.
By all means, why not make a detestable character also a Nazi? Like, it doesn't, or not even a Nazi, but like someone who betrayed or made light of the Holocaust or something like that. And like, I can't say to the extent that all of this is hugely relevant. I can't even say whether or not he was a Nazi. Like, he just was portraying one in his wrestling, and certain Jewish communities took that as insulting and perhaps making light of the Holocaust. And I think even that, in then saying that's the cause of the curse, is an element of the film I would have found at least interesting, even if it was just in passing, just saying like, oh, his character was such like a detestable person because he betrayed this, that a certain community already disliked him. And then you can kind of go into how even as a father, even as a family man, which is what he claimed to be good at, he was still flawed.
Yeah.
And I think at least for Fritz von Erich, it just shows that he's a very deeply flawed character.
Sure.
And I don't think it in any sense would have been like, oh, like, we're idolizing this character who portrayed a Nazi or anything like that. I do find it bizarre that they chose to just skip over that. And I can't claim to know whether or not it was because of, the current political...
I think it would be. I think people want to... This sounds interesting to say, but I think for a general audience, a lot of people want to go into a film to escape. And I know that in this type of film, maybe that's not the case. And I know that we're not talking about some big blockbuster explosion film here, but we're talking about a real dramatic family story. And I totally get that. But I also understand that there are elements of the film that went to a place that I thought that it went far enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could have gone further, and I totally agree with you. But I feel like as it stands, it kept within the genre that it was trying to be within.
Yeah.
It is already quite a long film. And the characters were portrayed really well. But you're right, knowing this external knowledge, including this element of the father that wasn't explored, was absolutely a major part of the film that people do not know.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that people should know it. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into your final thoughts of the film and your rating?
Yes, yeah, I can. Once again, I'll analyze it as like a standalone film,
Please do. Yeah.
I thought it was good. I thought it was a good film.
Right.
Really, really good acting, good scenes, even good writing. I didn't mention this in the non-spoiler section. I probably should have. I thought like talking at the start, there was a lot of exposition instead of like natural conversations. Like I feel like at one point they sat down with the father and he was like, I lost my championship belt and you won't miss out. It's just kind of like, we got that. Like you can tell it through the story. Like we don't need him to sit down and tell us that. So that was just at the start. I think it meshed in perfectly as the story went on. So the dialogue wasn't a huge issue throughout the entire film. But yeah, all around it's a good film. I don't know if I'd rush back to watch it necessarily, just because
Interesting. Okay.
I didn't initially think that. I think obviously my feelings have been slightly contorted just by the political aspects of it, as I said. But even just watching it again, it is a hard watch.
It is a hard watch.
Just because it is very emotional, very intense. And that's not to take away from it as saying like it's an unwatchable film that I'll never watch again. Like I probably might. Probably not. I will probably watch it again.
Right.
But yeah, all together, I would currently give it eight claps.
8 claps.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's really interesting. I agree with a lot of what you said. I didn't necessarily feel the dialogue at the beginning. I see it now that you pointed it out, and I did notice it, but I thought it fit within the character because I feel like that is a character who is very vocal. I feel like that is the character of who he is, where he's very vocal to his entire family. He's very involved, and he has his opinions, and he says them, and he doesn't waver.
Yeah.
So I thought it fit within the character, and you're right, and it meshed really well in the rest of the film. For me, I personally thought it was a tremendous film. I thought every element from the cinematography to the acting to the direction to the production design to the sound design all worked really well. Every hit within the ring was felt. Every emotional beat landed. I cared about the characters. I thought the visuals were really impressive. It did a lot of unique things. The blend of the black and white and the color.
Yeah.
All of these elements worked really well. They did not distract. You know, some people may go into it and sort of it starts in black and white and perceive it as some art house film, and it might be, but it tells a really powerful story, has incredible production values, and ultimately tells a really powerful story about the Von Erich brothers.
Yeah,
I personally would give it 9 claps.
Okay.
I think there's not a lot about it I would change. The only thing I would say that would drop it down would be sort of the external research and the things surrounding that. But ultimately, it sounds like critics from across the world also agree. It's got 89% Rotten Tomatoes, 8 out of 10 average on IMDb, so it's really critically acclaimed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is sort of driving out of theaters now. It has been out for a period of time. It is now available on video on demand, and it is still playing in certain theaters. I know in Australia you can still see it at classic cinemas and cinemas like Palace. For those overseas, I believe it is still playing in theaters, but it is coming on video. It is out on video on demand, so if you want to watch it from home, that is absolutely an option now. But I'd say if it's still playing in the theater near you, watch it on the big screen. Every hit lands, and you'll come out feeling emotional. And it's definitely a film that I mean, we had visible gasps, and you know, people were crying in the theater. It was definitely an experience that shared with people was a tremendously profound experience.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend you go out and see this one. If not, watch it at home. But basically, try and find a way to watch this film. A24 have absolutely got another hit on their hands, and I only hope to see this entire cast and crew go on to do more incredible work.
Absolutely. I think we'll go on to the outro now. I do briefly say I don't think we're going to be doing an hour and a half about news topics going on. I think it was just that there was a Super Bowl. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. Yeah. And we'll probably spend more time discussing films in general.
Absolutely. We will be in a film and TV news podcast, but we are going to go into film reviews and our discussion on films a lot more in the future. We will always hit on the major news stories coming out of the week, but it has been a major week for films.
Yep.
We've had some big new releases. I remind you that Madam Web and Bob Marley are in theaters now.
Yep.
And of course, please check out the Super Bowl trailers, and we will absolutely be coming back with some major releases. We've got June Part 2 coming out, and I'm sure we're going to try and go out and see either Bob Marley or Madam Web in the near future.
Yep.
And we will give you our thoughts on those. All we'd ask is that we are just two guys trying to start a podcast. We talk about movies so much to our friends and family, and we just wanted to bring that to you. If you could please share this podcast with others or give us feedback, we'd absolutely appreciate it. And we hope to see you again on another episode.
Yeah, if you want to plug your anything.
All I'll say is keep an eye out for the Clap podcast. We'll be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from.
Yeah.
We are hoping to incorporate a YouTube element. This will be available as an audio file on YouTube under Frost Films 01. So please check it out on YouTube as well. Please speak to your friends and family. Let them know about us, and we hope to see you again on another episode. Thank you very much.